Good day, everybody. Welcome to another car video. Thanks for tuning in. I'm in a car again with this shaky, crazy, stupid mount, but you'll just have to get used to it, I'm afraid. Taking Puppy to the park. Say hi, Kenzie. Thank you. And we're gonna go to the park, and while on the way there, we're gonna discuss what's happening in the U.S. with these riots. I'm not gonna call them protests because that's not what they are anymore. Matter of fact, they were only protests for a very brief time. They became violent and destructive almost immediately. But I guess there was another police shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, I believe. And the incident surrounded a domestic dispute where cops intervened. And the man they tried to apprehend had a warrant. He had a arrest record as long as your arm for assault, domestic violence, resisting arrest. He'd attacked police officers before. He had a knife on him at the time that they tried to arrest him. He resisted arrest, attacked the cops, from what I understand. Went to his car. My understanding is he said, "I'm gonna get my gun," and he went to his car, opened it up, and reached for something inside. At which point, police opened fire. Now they had already tried to tase him, but the taser failed because tasers aren't super reliable. And you know, I've seen video footage of people being tased, and it doesn't do anything to them. They act like nothing's happening. Some people just aren't affected by it. I don't know what it has to do with it. I mean, you'd think it's basic physics, right? You run an electrical charge through somebody's body. It's an automatic muscle response. They're gonna react to it. But I guess if you're on enough drugs or you got thick enough skin or whatever, you hit a fatty part of their body, it doesn't get through to the muscles or something. I have no idea. I'm not a marine biologist. I'm not a scientist, so I really don't know how these things are meant to work, but in any event, taser didn't work in this case, so the cops ended up shooting him after he went to his car to reach for something. You can see the footage. They even tried to pull him out of the car by his shirt, but when they weren't able to, when he resisted them, and they weren't able to, they shot him, apparently 7 times. Now, of course, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, DNC, all of the regular left talking heads have come out and said this is another example of racially motivated attacks by police. And that's not the case, right? The facts are strikingly different from the narrative they're trying to put out there. It's also been discovered now that the George Floyd case wasn't about him dying from a boot on the neck. Go ahead. It was more about the drugs that were in his system. He even said, "I can't breathe," when he was first put in a car. I guess he got out of the car somehow and ended up on the ground when he resisted arrest. In any event, all told, none of these police shootings black men would happen if black men wouldn't resist arrest, would just follow police instruction. I'm not going to say none of them. Some of them obviously are bad actors. But in any event, this just sparked a whole slew more riots, this time in Kenosha. And then Portland rioted again in brotherhood, in fraternity with what happened in Kenosha. And it's escalated even further where people sitting down to enjoy a lunch in a cafe, at a cafe patio, are being confronted by BLM activists and being like cajoled and intimidated into putting up their hands in solidarity with Black Lives Matter, or get on their knees, or what have you. And the only thing I take away from this is that BLM want to start a race war. The mainstream media would love to start a race war. And I don't understand why. I mean, I understand why the media want to do it. its ratings for one, and also they can bring out all their talking heads to just say, see, this is what happens in Trump's America, right? Never mind that these are all happening in Democrat-run cities, in places where governors and mayors are saying, police stand down. The Portland police were told to stand down by the mayor on the night of the riots in an effort to get the riots to stop. Well, of course they didn't stop. They went into the suburbs. They went into rural areas. And you know, Tim Pool called it. He says it's happening in Portland proper right now, but eventually they're going to come to the suburbs. I can't believe how red-pilled Tim Pool has gotten over the last 6 months to a year. It's he's gone full MAGA. I mean, he's not MAGA, but he's come out basically said, yeah, I'm voting for Trump unless something drastic happens. Right now, I'm voting Trump, and I'm probably voting Republican down ticket. So, and he's right. You know, this isn't going to help the Democrats. It's only going to turn more moderates and independents. The ones who are being exposed to it, the ones who are seeing it, are going to come out and say, you know what, this can't go on. And with guys like Biden and Harris and all the Democrat politicians coming out and saying, you know, we need to reform the police. This is their takeaway from these riots. Yeah, we need to reform the police. Not, you know, disavowing the violence. Not saying these rioters need to be stopped. Not calling for law and order. So far, only Trump is calling for law and order. And this isn't going to help them. And I was thinking about it. There is a race war, a so-called race war. BLM, they're not going to win. And I'm not talking about whites versus blacks. Of course, that's what you think of when you think race war. I'm talking about BLM, who are the real ones who are going to try and engage in violent action against whites, which they've already shown they're going to do. It's okay, Kenzie. I know it's a touchy subject, but stay with me here. It'll be BLM, not all blacks. It'll be BLM going against all whites, but then not all whites are going to fight back. It's going to be the whites who say, fuck this shit, I've had enough. And they're going to, you know, come out armed, as they've done now in several instances. There was an instance where some protesters went into a rural area, or not a rural area, a suburban area, and were confronting a guy on his property, and he said, we don't want this here, get out of here. He was holding a gun. Apparently he fired a shot into the air, and that caused the BLM protesters to turn tail and run. But they're the sensible ones. The other ones are the BLM protesters who are showing up with guns, pointing them in people's faces, threatening them, saying things like, we know where you live, we're coming back, stuff like that. I gotta tell you, man, this isn't gonna be good. Now look at me, I'm the guy who's saying, yeah, I want to move to Arizona. Well, at least where I'm looking at moving, it's like right in the middle of nowhere, so I think I might be insulated from any upheaval, but you never know. If things go full-scale Boogaloo, then it may come to my doorstep. The move to Arizona is not happening anytime soon. It's a medium to long-term plan before I'm too old to enjoy the outdoors. But I'm getting there, so I'm gonna have to do it soon. Anyway, I can't fathom the strategy of BLM doing this and engaging in these really horrendous tactics against just people sitting in cafe patios, you know, eating a lunch. Like, what are you hoping to attain from that? Are you trying to convince them that you're right? Tim Pool called it terrorism. I guess essentially it is. You know, you're threatening violence unless you get on board with their political message and their political motivation or their political goals. That's terrorism. If you threaten violence or engage in violence in an effort to bring about political change, you're a fucking terrorist. It comes down to that. Anyway, all this points to Trump, I don't want to say landslide, but I think a bigger victory than in 2016. Because 2016 things were relatively normal, despite the media trying to portray Trump and everybody who supported him as some terrible human being. Well, now, you know, the blinders are off, the mask is slipped, and we see who the terrible human beings are. The terrible human beings out there are BLM, Antifa and the Democrats who enabled them, and the media who enabled them. Anyway, I don't really have a lot more to say. I just this further proves my point about how people on the left can't do the A all the way to Z thinking about what their actions are going to accomplish. They think A, therefore B, but they don't think about C, D, E, F, all the way to Z, of what ultimately will happen. And let's say this, and I'm not advocating for this, obviously, but let's say there was a race war, okay, with blacks against whites. Blacks are 13% of the population. Whites are, what, 64, 65% of the population? And do you think that the Asians are going to come on down, stop kissing my ear, are going to come down on the side of the blacks? I doubt even Hispanics would. I mean, there's always going to be some, but anyway, that's about all I got to say. Dog's losing her mind because she knows we're going to the park and she loves going to the park. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, which I know about half of you aren't, please consider subscribing. I got up to 400 and then it dropped right back down to $3.99. So my hope is that I get some more subs. Have a great day, folks. Love you all. Take care.